Welcome to the Cheating Confession Reddit channel. Today, I'm going to share with you a real-life cheating story. It will give you a better understanding of the issue of infidelity today and help you be more cautious when it comes to a cheating wife. Let's dive into this story together.
Life felt perfect. My love for my wife was unparalleled and nothing else could even come close. We shared a marriage filled with passion and truly enjoyed each other's presence. But don't get the wrong idea. Our social life was just as lively, surrounded by friends and family. Before diving into the details of my story, let me introduce myself. I'm Stanley Oliver Smith, a name my parents, George and Barbara, specifically chose so my initials would spell sauce. Funny, right? But I rarely go by that name. Instead, almost everyone calls me Bubba. The nickname originated from my sister Karen, who, as a toddler, couldn't quite pronounce brother and ended up calling me Bubba, and that's how it stuck, thanks to Karen. My wife, Holly, and I were born in June of 1981. Our paths first crossed in September during the fall migration I attended with my parents. Growing up, my mom and sister insisted I learn the Carolina shag dance, forcing me to practice with them endlessly. I didn't appreciate it back then, but that changed the moment I saw Holly dancing at that event. My heart skipped a beat, and I knew I had to ask her for a dance. For the first time, I was grateful for all those shag lessons. Holly, who grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, eventually moved to Columbia after earning a marketing degree from the College of Charleston. Her parents, Doug and Paula Owens, still live in Charleston, but Holly now works for an insurance company in Columbia, just a couple of miles from where I live. My best friend since the second grade is Ralph Jones, though everyone knows him as RJ. His parents, Earl and Gloria, are still my parents' next-door neighbors. Earl coached RJ and me in basketball during our childhood, while my grandfather handled our football team. After graduating from the University of South Carolina, RJ and I ended up working as sales reps for the same company. Now that you've met Holly, her family, my family, and my best friend, let's move forward. Holly and I first connected during that fall migration event, so it became a tradition to attend every sauce gathering with our families. We'd share a cozy 3-bedroom condo near the beach clubs each year. For the past 3 years, I've stuck to a strict weekday routine. I'm up by 5:25 a.m. every morning for a workout. Mondays and Wednesdays are for basketball with RJ and a few others, while I hit the weights on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. This schedule keeps my 6'4" frame at a solid 227 pounds. Holly also prioritizes fitness, but her preference is for afternoon workouts. 5:30 a.m. isn't her style. One evening, while I was unwinding and watching American Idol, Holly turned to me and said, "Bubba, don't forget we need to be at the airport by noon tomorrow." "Got it," I replied. "I can't wait to relax on the beaches of Cancun." She smiled and joked, "Your office might think you're irreplaceable, but mine will survive just fine without me for a few days." We were celebrating our 3rd wedding anniversary with a 4-day getaway to Cancun. As the show ended, I began gathering the trash for Thursday morning pickup, a routine chore. After putting the bins out and locking up, I returned to the living room. Holly asked about the suitcases. "They're in the basement," I said. "Should I grab them now?" "Yes, please," she replied. I reluctantly fetched them, wondering why we needed 3 suitcases and a carry-on for such a short trip. Thursday morning started like any other. I was out the door by 5:40 a.m. Sliding into my car, I noticed it was cluttered with coffee cups, a fast food bag, and a broken umbrella. On my way out, I decided to toss some of the trash into the bin at the curb. Lifting the lid, I noticed a plain brown shipping box addressed to Holly Owens, her maiden name. The return label showed her office address, not our home. Curious, I opened it to find a packing slip for clothing, including a skirt and bra. I figured it was part of her plans to surprise me during our trip. After my workout, I got back to find Holly's suitcases packed and ready by the door. By 11:25 a.m., I was waiting outside her office, and by 4 p.m., we were lounging on a beach in Cancun. That evening, we enjoyed an amazing dinner at one of the hotel's restaurants and danced until 2 a.m. I was looking forward to seeing Holly's new lingerie, but when she emerged from the bathroom, She wore a baggy white t-shirt with pink flamingos instead. Sensing my confusion, she asked, "Bubba, are you feeling okay? You're not getting sick, are you?" "No," I said, a little disappointed. "I just thought you'd wear something different." Laughing, she teased, "Why bother? You'd have it off me in 30 seconds anyway." She wasn't wrong. As the lights went off, we ended the night in each other's arms. The next morning, sipping coffee on the balcony, my thoughts wandered back to the package. Holly joined me, and after breakfast we planned a snorkeling trip at a local reef. But I couldn't shake the question, why hadn't the lingerie made it to our anniversary getaway? The adventure was unforgettable. If you ever have the chance to visit Cancun, make sure to dedicate an afternoon to snorkeling along the vibrant reef. It's an experience you'll never forget. Afterward, we freshened up, grabbed a quick bite, and plunged into the lively nightlife. I've lost count of how many bars we visited, but the night was a blur of laughter and joy. The next day followed a similar rhythm, except we traded snorkeling for exploring the bustling local market and indulging in some shopping. I picked out a necklace that Holly had been admiring for some time, and I treated myself to a beautifully crafted chess set. That evening was special, marking both our wedding anniversary and our last night in Cancun. We chose to celebrate with an intimate, romantic dinner, cherishing the moment. Afterward, we wandered along the moonlit beach, hand in hand, talking about our hopes and dreams. We both adore children, and Holly mentioned that she planned to stop taking her birth control starting in January. As we strolled back to the hotel, Holly hinted at a surprise she'd prepared for me. I couldn't help but think about the packing list she'd made, imagining her in the new outfit she'd brought along. When we got to the room, Holly grabbed her bag and disappeared into the bathroom, leaving me to retrieve her anniversary gift. Moments later, she emerged, still in her dinner dress, a radiant smile lighting up her face. She held out an envelope with a flourish and said, "Happy anniversary, love. You've made me the happiest woman alive. Now hurry up and open it. I can't wait to see your reaction." Her excitement was contagious, but I decided to play along and tease her a little. "Holly," I said warmly, "you make me fall more in love with you every single day," handing her my gift. "You first, and then I'll open mine." "No way," she laughed. "I've been keeping the secret for weeks. I need to see your face now," she insisted, practically bouncing with anticipation. "Are you sure?" I asked, grinning. "Absolutely," she exclaimed, her eyes gleaming with excitement. In all our years together, I had never seen her so thrilled. Carefully, I opened the envelope and read the card inside. When I looked up at Holly, stunned, she squealed with delight, leaping into my arms and kissing me. "I knew you'd love it," she beamed. "Your reaction is exactly what I was hoping for." The card revealed she'd secured 2 tickets to the NASCAR night race at Bristol Motor Speedway, an event I'd dreamed of attending for years. "How did you even manage this?" I asked, still astonished. "There was a contest at work, and I won tickets for both the Busch and Cup races," she explained with pride. "I'm so glad it worked out." "You're incredible," I said, pulling her close for another kiss. "Now it's your turn. Open your gift." The next morning, we woke early for a final walk along the beach before heading to the airport. By mid-afternoon, we were waiting for our flight home, reflecting on the incredible trip. Update 1. Holly fell asleep shortly after the plane took off, leaving me alone with my thoughts. My mind drifted to the peculiar details surrounding the surprise, the mysterious brown box, the packing slip, and how she managed to get those tickets. Something about it didn't sit right. In all the time we'd been together, she had never mentioned any work contests. My unease grew as questions piled up. Why was her maiden name listed on the packing slip? Why had she ordered from a place like Trashy Lingerie? And what had happened to the clothes? When we got home, I tried to act normal, but Holly quickly picked up on my mood. "You're so quiet, Bubba," she said. "Is everything okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine," I lied. "Just thinking about work tomorrow and planning our trip to Bristol." The following morning during basketball, my friends noticed something was off. During a break, Nick pressed me. "All right, Bubba, spill it. You just got back from a vacation, but you're acting like the world's ending." I tried to brush it off as post-vacation fatigue, but they weren't buying it. After relentless prodding, I finally told them about the box from Trashy Lingerie. The conversation quickly turned into brainstorming how to uncover what was really going on. The next day, instead of meeting up for basketball, my friends brought over gadgets, digital recorders, a nanny cam system, and other surveillance tools. The plan was to install phone line recorders at home, hide a digital recorder in Holly's car, and set up cameras in key areas of the house. This would give me insight into Holly's phone calls and movements at home and in her car. Tracking her outside of these spaces was a challenge. Holly's routine was predictable, leaving for work at 7:50 a.m., finishing at 4:30 p.m., and often heading to the gym or visiting my parents. During our next meeting, Jason suggested bringing in his grandfather, who was eager to help. He and his brother Bob agreed to discreetly monitor Holly, filling in the gaps of our surveillance plan. One of them took the wheel while the other recorded everything on a camcorder. "What do you think?" someone asked. Everyone agreed without hesitation. Jason's wife had truly come up with a brilliant plan. Before I could fully comprehend it, the group had already decided to involve their grandparents to lend us a hand. By Friday morning, I arrived to find my basketball buddies waiting for me, and to my surprise, 2 unfamiliar faces joined them. After introductions were made, we got straight to work crafting a strategy to keep tabs on Holly. We split into teams and finalized a schedule. Each day, someone would follow Holly throughout her routine, her job, her lunch breaks, her gym sessions, and her return home. Over the weekend, the team familiarized themselves with the key spots, my house, my parents' place, and Holly's office, to ensure they knew where she was supposed to be at any given time. By Monday morning, the surveillance began in earnest. Every day started with a meeting to review observations from the previous day. By midweek, John brought in his friend Fred, a retired security expert eager to help. On Thursday, RJ raised a concern. "We've got every part of Holly's day covered except for her office hours. How do we address that?" "I've thought a lot about that," I replied. "I've looked into various surveillance devices online like long-duration digital recorders with AC adapters and enhanced mics. But there are some big challenges. First, installing them in her office would be tricky. Second, transferring recordings to my computer would be another headache. And lastly, none of us want to risk getting charged with trespassing. Honestly, if she's being unfaithful, she's unlikely to do it at work with 45 colleagues around." "Good point," RJ admitted. "I'm just trying to cover all the bases." I was genuinely touched by the level of effort everyone was putting in to support me. After 2 weeks of close observation, I called the group together. "I want to thank all of you for your incredible efforts. Over the past 2 weeks, Holly has behaved exactly as a devoted wife should. She goes to work, shops with friends, visits my parents, works out, and runs errands. She hasn't been seen with anyone besides friends, co-workers, or family. Let's keep this going for 1 more week, and then wrap it up." The following Friday, we gathered for our final meeting as a monitoring team. "I can't thank you enough for everything you've done over the past 3 weeks. You've confirmed my wife's loyalty and dedication to our marriage. It's time to let life return to normal. I wish you all the very best." Henry chimed in. "Well, Bubba, thanks for giving us something meaningful to focus on. We've bonded as friends through this, and we plan to stay in touch. By the way, we've already spoken with a few local attorneys and pitched our services. We're thrilled to say we've got our first job lined up for next Wednesday. No more boring afternoons rocking in chairs." As I left with the camcorders, I wished everyone a safe and happy weekend. When I offered to return the equipment, they insisted I keep it or pass it on, relieved to have it out of their homes. As I approached RJ's car, I turned to him. "RJ, I'm heading home to disconnect everything before going to the office. Can you let Harry know I'll be late?" "No problem," he said. "I'll let him know before grabbing my coffee. Do you need help?" "Thanks, but I've got it covered. No need for both of us to be late," I replied. Even though the group's efforts had concluded, lingering doubts still haunted me. There were too many unanswered questions. It didn't feel right to ask the team to keep going indefinitely, so I decided to take matters into my own hands. Back at home, I changed clothes and started by relocating the phone line recorder. Next, I found a book that matched the size of the VCR nanny cam, altered the book cover to conceal the camera lens, and placed it back in its usual spot. As for the notebook cam, I moved it to the garage, where it could monitor any new deliveries. Lastly, I hid the digital recorder under the couch where Holly often sat. Once everything was set up, I took a shower, locked up the house, and headed to my meeting with Harry. That evening, Holly and I joined my parents for dinner at our favorite Greek restaurant. Most of the conversation revolved around our upcoming trip to Bristol. "Do you know where your seats are?" Dad asked. "Not yet," Holly said, "but they're supposed to be excellent. Mr. Johnson, our CEO, offered us 2 of his personal tickets. He gets 6 for every race, so they should be great." "Well, if you're sitting with him, you'd better be on your best behavior," Dad joked. Hearing this, I mentally crossed race tickets off my list of worries. They seemed legitimate. The next morning, Holly's unusually cheerful mood caught me off guard. After my shower, I found her in the kitchen cooking breakfast, something she rarely did before 10 a.m. on weekends. Laughing, she said, "Oh, honey, I'm just so happy I couldn't sleep." "I'm happy too, but apparently not as happy as you." "What's got you in such a great mood?" I asked. "We have so much to be thankful for lately. A wonderful trip to Cancun, this upcoming race, and plans to start a family. I'm just overwhelmed with love for you." "Well, let's skip breakfast and head back to bed to celebrate that love," I teased. "I'd love to, but there's no time," she said with a grin. "I'm meeting Debbie, RJ's wife, to help her find a dress for her cousin's wedding." "So you're up early because of Debbie?" I joked. "Not at all. She's not coming until 11, Holly laughed. "This morning, I woke up earlier than usual, eager to spend some extra time with you. When you suggested we return to bed so you could show your affection, I smiled warmly, touched by your love, and promised to reciprocate later. However, you insisted that I first sit down and enjoy the breakfast you'd prepared." "Of course, sweetheart," I replied, grinning. The breakfast turned out to be an absolute delight, and I cherished every moment of sharing it with you. While Holly took care of the dishes, I stepped outside to handle some chores, mowing the lawn and cleaning the cars. Just as I finished, Debbie showed up. She followed me inside, checking if Holly was ready. One thing about Holly, she's never late. Debbie smirked at me and teased, "So, Bubba, what's your game plan while Holly's off spending your cash?" "What do you mean?" I asked, confused by her comment. "Oh, I heard you're shopping for a dress. That's basically code for draining RJ's wallet," she quipped. I fired back with a laugh. "If Holly's buying anything today, it better be that kitchen faucet she's been talking about." Debbie chuckled. "Pretty sure faucets aren't on the shelves at the kind of stores we're hitting." Holly chimed in with a playful grin. "You saw the faucet I want when we were shopping together. Why not grab it today?" Then, with a sweet smile, she added, "And treat yourself to a barbecue sandwich while you're out. Love you." Later, I returned home with both the barbecue sandwich and the shiny new kitchen faucet. While enjoying my meal, I sketched out a to-do list. Installing the faucet seemed like a logical first step while I was still dressed for the task. But as I cleared out the cabinet and read the instructions, I realized I didn't have the right wrench. Faced with 2 options, heading back to the store or borrowing one from Dad, I ruled out visiting Dad, knowing it would turn into a lengthy visit. With a looming project deadline, I decided to save the faucet installation for another day. After a refreshing shower, I settled into my basement office to focus on my MBA assignment. Immersed in my work, I lost track of time until I heard Holly and Debbie chatting upstairs through the baby monitor. A few minutes later, Holly called me. "You're back already?" I asked, stepping out of my office. "It's 7 p.m., Bubba. Have you been napping?" she teased. "No," I replied, "just deep in my project." Time truly does fly when you're engaged in something. I joined the 2 of them in the kitchen shortly after. Looking at Debbie, I asked, "So, where's this dress you found?" "It's in the den," she said, grinning. We followed her to check it out. "It looks amazing," I told her. "It'll definitely turn heads at the wedding." "Thank you," Debbie replied, clearly pleased. "It'll look even better once Holly and I find matching shoes tomorrow." I laughed. I'll never understand how you two can spend so long shopping. But hey, it's your time, and RJ's money. Holly smiled and reassured me. Tomorrow morning I'll make you breakfast again, and we'll spend time together. I could get used to this, I said, pulling her close. Have I mentioned lately how much I love you? She smiled and whispered back, Thank you. And I love you too. That evening, Holly attempted to express her love in a more intimate way, but it didn't lead anywhere. By Sunday afternoon, I was back in my office, engrossed in work again. Needing a break after a few hours, I was about to check the nanny cam footage when I overheard Holly and Debbie talking upstairs. Shortly after, Holly called me up to see Debbie's new shoes. The things husbands endure, I muttered, but dutifully went upstairs anyway. I complimented their find. Great work, ladies. Only 4 hours to track these down. They both laughed and thanked me. By Monday, I was back on the basketball court with friends, slipping easily into my usual routine. On Tuesday, a surprise email from my professor canceled class due to a family emergency, and a shift in my sales schedule freed up my afternoon. It was the perfect chance to surprise Holly by finally installing the faucet. I changed into work clothes and rode my motorcycle to Dad's workshop to borrow the wrench. While searching for it, I stumbled upon a box of old family photos. Overcome with nostalgia, I sifted through them, pulling out a few to copy for my future kids. Glancing outside, I saw Holly and my mother leaving the basement door. My mother held money in her hand as they looked toward RJ's parents' house. My curiosity turned to unease when RJ and my boss Harry appeared from the gate. Frozen, I realized this wasn't just an affair, it was something far more calculated. Dazed, I walked to the basement window, unsure of what I'd find. What I saw left me speechless. While I can't disclose all the details, it became clear that my mother had orchestrated the entire scheme for financial gain. I wondered if my father was aware. Reaching for my phone to call Dad, I stopped short when I saw him approaching the house. No need to call, he said, as though he knew what I'd uncovered. Sorry I'm late. Let's have a drink. He asked my mother to join him upstairs, leaving me to process the revelations alone. After taking some photos for evidence, I returned home and began researching South Carolina's divorce laws. I also consulted several divorce attorneys in Columbia to prepare for the difficult decisions ahead. Did you know that once you consult and pay an attorney, even if you don't retain them for your case, your spouse is barred from seeking their services? In South Carolina, I can file for a no-fault divorce simply by living apart for a year. Alternatively, I could proceed on the grounds of adultery. However, as the attorneys explained, proving adultery is no small feat. It requires a witness who directly observed the act. Neither my testimony nor photos from my phone would suffice. You might wonder why I haven't already barged in and confronted the situation. Don't worry, I'm staying put for now. But I'm ready to execute my plan. Pulling a folded list of phone numbers from my wallet, I began making the necessary calls. On the advice of the attorneys, I'd already taken steps to secure my finances. I opened new accounts in my name and transferred most of the funds from our joint accounts. My first call was to my bank's automated system to finalize the transfers. Next, I contacted our credit card company, reducing the credit limit to just $50 above the current balance. Asset division depends on their value at the date of separation, which is today, so the actual amounts moved didn't matter. My final call was to a security firm recommended by the attorneys. I had already met with them, signed the necessary agreements, and was simply waiting to greenlight their involvement. When I called, Lonnie, the supervisor on duty, answered. I outlined the situation and requested 3 agents to meet me at my parents' house. They were instructed to arrive discreetly via the neighbor's yard, equipped with a camera and a camcorder. Once prepared, I silenced my phone and set it to vibrate. Returning to my spot by the window, I waited for reinforcements to arrive. The surprising part, my wife wasn't having an affair. The disappointing truth, she had adopted a lifestyle I could no longer accept. That realization solidified my determination. As I waited, my parents left in their car. Unsure of their destination, I grabbed a 30-inch pipe for protection just in case. They returned shortly before the security team, Jim, Derek, and Connie arrived about 45 minutes later. After brief introductions, Jim began recording with the camcorder. I called Lonnie back, putting him on speakerphone and informing him that the call was being recorded. I also requested he leave a voicemail once we ended the call to document the date and time. After replaying his message for confirmation, we approached the basement window. Connie's task was to capture clear, close-up photos of everyone present to ensure their identities were indisputable later. Meanwhile, Jim recorded continuous video footage. A few minutes later, the three of us entered the house. It didn't take long for the people inside to realize we were there. Holly, my wife, reacted first, blurting out the classic excuse of every guilty spouse caught in the act. "Oh my God, Bubba. I never wanted you to find out like this. I'm so sorry." Feigning calm, I replied, "Sorry to interrupt. I'll only be here a moment. Then you can get back to your little gathering." The room fell silent. Whether it was my presence or the security agents that froze them, I couldn't tell. "Holly," I said icily, "don't ever bring your trashy companions back into my home. Your belongings will be on the driveway tomorrow from 7 o'clock to 9 p.m. Anything left after 9 o'clock will go into the garage until I haul it to the dump on Thursday. From now on, you are not welcome here. Don't attempt to enter. The locks will be changed tonight." "Bubba, please," she begged. "Let me explain." "Explain what? That you love me?" I shot back. "Yes, I do love you," she pleaded. "You don't know the first thing about love. Whatever you feel, I don't want it," I said coldly. "Please don't say that," she whispered. "Be quiet and listen," I snapped. "Nothing you say will change the facts." At that moment, my father intervened. "Bubba, you need to cool off. Let's talk tomorrow." "I don't need time," I retorted. "And you and your wife aren't welcome in my house either." "You can't talk to us like that," my father exclaimed. "We're your parents, and this is our home." "You lost my respect long ago," I replied. "And you don't need to worry about me coming back. I'll never step foot in this house again. George and Barbara, you ceased being my parents the moment you supported Holly's betrayal. How do you live with yourselves knowing you helped her ruin our marriage?" Turning back to Holly, I continued, "Look at me. You've humiliated me with my boss, Harry, my best friend, RJ, and who knows how many others. My attorney will make sure every one of them is named in the divorce petition. Jim and Derek witnessed your behavior today. That's all the evidence I need." As the room erupted with angry shouts and desperate pleas, I cut them all off. "Listen carefully. I never want to see any of you again. If you so much as approach me, turn around and walk the other way. Consider this your only warning." Finally, I addressed George and RJ. "I am no longer your son or your friend. You've shown me your true colors. From now on, if you try to interfere in my life, I'll become your worst nightmare. You knew I suspected my wife Holly of cheating, but you still didn't stop seeing her. Worse, you made sure everyone around us was aware of how my suspicions were growing. Let me be crystal clear. If you come near me again, you'll regret it so deeply that the next stop for you will be the hospital. This warning isn't just for you. It extends to everyone involved. RJ, are you paying attention? Yes, I hear you. There's more." "So, whose bright idea was it to have Jason's grandfather keep an eye on Holly?" I asked. "Not mine," RJ replied. "But honestly, I was surprised by how many people jumped at the chance to meddle." "And what about her so-called friends and family?" I pressed. "Do they know the truth about what Holly's been up to?" "No," he admitted. "They're clueless about what she's done." "RJ, do you understand what I'll do if you ever cross my path again?" "Yes, Bubba, I get it. I'm sorry." "Sorry? You're all only sorry because you got caught. If you cared even a little about me, you wouldn't have betrayed me with my wife. And it wasn't just betrayal. You kept at it even after I started piecing things together. Not only did you cheat with her, but you also manipulated the situation to paint Holly as a devoted wife, deliberately keeping me in the dark. Stopping the affair? That was never on your agenda." Turning to Harry, I said, "I'm taking tomorrow off to start clearing this disaster out of my life. On Thursday, after I've dropped the trash off at the dump, I'll stop by the office to hand Bob my resignation. I'd advise you to steer clear of the office that day. And Harry, your wife will know everything by the end of this week." "Harry, do you believe me now?" Yes, he muttered. Please don't tell my wife. Oh, she'll know, I replied. I've already spent too much on Holly and her family. Don't drag my parents into this. They're just trying to make ends meet despite having a lying daughter-in-law. Holly should have been honest before we got married. I never signed up for this kind of life. At that point, Holly tried to interject. Bubba, I couldn't tell you. You wouldn't have married me. You're damn right I wouldn't have, I snapped. You knew that and still lied to me. I wasted 4 years loving someone who didn't deserve it, and I'm not wasting another minute. Don't interrupt me again. Addressing Harry and RJ, I added, Your wives deserve to know who they married, and they will. By the end of this week, they'll have everything they need to confront you. I delivered my final warning before leaving. Don't ever contact me again. I don't want to hear from any of you. And Holly, you're only allowed on the driveway. Don't knock on the door or call out to me. You have 2 hours to pack your things and leave. As I turned to leave, I noticed a video camera on a tripod. I picked it up and turned back to the group. Perfect. I'll be taking this. Don't worry. I'll return it after I've made a copy for my attorney. Jim and Derek were outside waiting as I rode off on my motorcycle. They stayed behind to ensure everything remained calm. Once home, I changed the locks, updated the answering machine, and cracked open a beer while waiting for Jim, Derek, and Connie. Derek later told me Holly and her crew left quickly and quietly after I'd gone, with no one saying much. They just wanted to get out of there. Jim handed me the memory cards, and I thanked him. They wished me luck before leaving. Epilogue. 6 weeks later, here's where things stand. The day after everything came to light, Harry's lawyer contacted mine, trying to strike a deal to keep Harry's name out of the press. RJ followed suit. When my attorney asked how I wanted to handle it, I told him, have them submit their best offer in writing by tomorrow. No verbal agreements. Meanwhile, Holly packed up her belongings and was gone by 9:01 p.m. that night. On Thursday, I formally resigned from my job. When Bob asked why I was leaving without notice, I told him, because I caught Harry and RJ sleeping with my wife on Tuesday. Then I handed him some photos to back it up. By Friday, both Harry and RJ were fired. Later that day, Holly's father left me a voicemail asking what had happened. I responded by emailing him incriminating photos of his daughter. He hasn't contacted me since. That evening, my sister Karen called, seeking answers. I asked her if she knew about our parents' involvement. After a pause, she admitted softly, yes. When I pressed further, she confessed they'd been helping Holly. I told her, not only do I know, but I have proof. Now hear this. You're dead to me. Don't contact me again. Then I hung up. The next day, I changed my phone number to ensure no one from my former circle could reach me again. Betrayed by people I once called friends and family, I decided to overhaul my life completely. First, I reminded myself that I wasn't at fault and refused to carry their shame. Second, I focused on improving my health, running on Mondays and Wednesdays, and weight training alone. Finally, I met with the wives of the men who tried to buy their way out of trouble. In my attorney's office, I handed them all the evidence, including their husbands' offers. Cheating is unacceptable, and those women deserve to know the truth about their marriages. It wasn't within my responsibilities to assess how this situation would affect their marriages. That was for them to grapple with. Still, I felt they deserved to know the truth. My lawyer organized a meeting with Holly and her attorney, during which he presented a video message I had recorded, outlining my proposed settlement. Holly ultimately accepted the conditions I had specified. Once the meeting was over, my attorney handed me a letter from Holly. Without a second thought, I tossed it into the trash without even glancing at its contents. Oh, and one more thing. The house? It's mine. Let me explain. My grandfather bequeathed one of his rental properties to me in his will. He passed away long before Holly was ever a part of my life. And I'll say this, there's something profoundly liberating about owning a home outright, free from the weight of a mortgage. For several days, right up until I changed my phone number, Barbara would call me daily, leaving the same message on my voicemail. Bubba, I'm so sorry and I'll always love you, she would say, her voice filled with emotion each time. But to be honest, I can't fathom how she could genuinely feel that way about me. To me, that's not the kind of love a mother ought to have for her son. And as for Holly, will I ever find it in my heart to forgive her? I can assure you with absolute certainty that forgiveness won't be coming from me. Not now, not ever. My friend, and this is the end of the story. If you liked this story, then put your royal like and subscribe to the channel. May the force be with you.